HMAT, that is the Modi Foundation Trust at Himayatnagar. It is, hello, am I audible, doctor? Yeah. Now I request Dr. Shivsankar sir to please carry on the session. Thank you. Sir, please speak.
Good evening, friends. I'm not able to see you all, but I know that you are all observing this, watching this. It's a pleasure to interact with all our colleagues here, all homeopaths, many young friends here. And I thank Dr. Gayatri Devi for making many efforts in organizing this conference or what we call as a webinar or something. And I am asked to discuss particularly about certain diseases pertaining to upper respiratory tract and also the sinusitis symptoms, which are very commonly noted in our day-to-day practice, and also spine, especially cervical spine and lumbar spine. They are only the two areas where the spine is mobile and the patient is likely to develop some disorder. So these are the commonest common diseases which we encounter in our day-to-day practice. And I am asked to dwell upon these diseases which are easily amenable to our treatment and for which in many patients, the allopathic advice is to undergo surgery. For example, in sinusitis, or you find in nasal polyps, they advise the patient to undergo surgery. Similarly, the prolapse of the intervertebral disc, the thoracic spine or cervical spine, here also the general treatment is that it is unfortunate, as you all know, patients do not directly come to us. They usually consult an orthopedic surgeon, and first they give some painkillers and then physiotherapy, and after a period of time they advise some surgery or something like that. At that point of time, usually patients consult us, and these are the areas where our drugs act miraculously, and I can say around 80 to 90% success rate is recorded, especially when we are treating this type of cases like respiratory allergies or respiratory infections or spinal disorders or sinus disorders, etc., etc. And here, many patients, they come with very acute problems, in the sense that the nose is blocked. That is a very, very common manifestation, common symptom of sinusitis. You all know it. And it's not simple obstruction of the nose, or it is not simple blocked nose. It is something more than that. There will be a lot of congestion in the face. This face is slightly swollen. There is severe heaviness in the head, and sometimes it is severe pain also. I have seen patients who are knocking their head against a wall because of this type of discomfort in the head due to sinusitis. Apparently, it is a small problem, apparently, but in reality, it is a very, very agonizing problem. And the character of this disease is, it starts as an acute problem, but invariably it turns into a very, very chronic problem. That is why at a stage of the disease, the patient is advised to undergo surgery. This is a common experience with all of you, because all of us treat this type of cases. The reason why we treat mostly this type of cases is because after a period of treatment, allopathy advise, ENT surgeon advises the patient to undergo surgery. When once a patient is advised to undergo surgery, many patients, they don't prefer surgery because they inquire with some other patients. And those who already underwent surgery, they say that they, in spite of surgery, the problem is continuing and recurring. So they don't prefer to go undergo surgery. They, at that time, they generally consult homeopaths. So that is why, among, if you take the statistics, if you get 100 cases in a month, around 20 to 30 cases you find sinusitis and upper respiratory tract affections. These affections may be allergic or may be infective. And in the upper respiratory tract, other than sinusitis, you may get pharyngitis, you may get some children with tonsillitis and adenoids infection, and sore throat, phonia, and also cough, which is, these are all the, something like a syndrome, 1+1+1, all these symptoms we find. And this upper respiratory tract, mostly it is allergic. And the patient may start with sinusitis or rhinitis, allergic rhinitis, and later on the patient develops sore throat and cough, and slowly it will be descending into the lungs, and there will be respiratory allergies like cough, breathlessness, or dyspnea, etc. These are the areas where our drugs really work better, much better, and as generally misconceived by the public, it is not, our medicines act very fast and the patient gets instantaneous relief even during an acute attack. Now the third disease which we are going to discuss is spine. It may be cervical spondylosis, which is very, very common, especially those who are accustomed to work on a system or computer, laptop, and school teachers who usually work, examine the, correct the answer books, hundreds of answer books, and some occupations like what we call making a sari with zari in the border. These are all the occupations where the patient is obliged to bend the head and work. So wherever the patient is obliged to work with a bent head, the problem of spondylosis usually aggravates, or it develops and further aggravates. And we also ask the patient not to use a pillow in most of the cases, simply because when a patient uses the pillow, the head is slightly bent forward. To avoid that, we ask the patient not to bend the head. And coming to the thoracic part, the lumbar, the L3, L4 is the commonest site for the disc to prolapse. In the layman's terms, it is known as a slip disc. As you know the anatomy, in the entire spine, there are only two parts which are mobile. One is cervical, another is lumbar. So wherever that mobility is there is always a scope for damage, wear and tear. That is why you find the lumbar area and cervical area, the disc is getting prolapsed, or sometimes it is getting degenerated. Especially in cervical region, you find degeneration of the bone leading to osteophyte formation. So these cases, very often we confront in our day-to-day practice, and the slip disc or PIVD, prolapse of the intervertebral disc, also is advised, the patient is advised to undergo laminectomy or surgery. And as homeopaths, we know many a time, even after surgery, the patient gets a relapse. In our mostly patients who already underwent laminectomy, they also come to us, and if they come without surgery, we can treat very well, very fast. And after surgery, it takes some time. At present, there is a patient who underwent laminectomy twice, L4, L5, and L3, L4, or something like that. And it's for the last 1 or 1.5 years, he is still under treatment, undergoing our treatment. So without surgery, we can deal with much better if the patient's response will be much better rather than after surgery. So these are the areas where generally we get better results. And we all know wherever there is a need for surgery according to the conventional system, there our medicines will do miraculous job without surgery. Say for example, hemorrhoids or fissures, fistulae, or renal colic or renal calculus. These are all the commonest diseases for which an allopathy advises surgery. But very commonly we find our drugs are capable of curing these diseases without any surgery. So these are the day-to-day practice. These are the cases which we confront. There are many other types of diseases because we are basically general practitioners. We get all types of cases, even gynecological cases, pediatric cases, and dermatological cases, orthopedic, all types of cases we get. But these are the areas which we have already discussed, where we have a better scope to give immediate results, avoiding surgical intervention. And any specific point you want me to delve over? It is open for discussion, Dr. Gayatri.
Sir, they have asked me to tell you to discuss a case and how you have treated the case. What are the rubrics if you have taken? How did you consider the rubrics? And what is the follow-up of the case?
Right, very good.
Instance, if a follow-up.
See, so far as the manifestation of symptoms is concerned, every patient manifests symptoms in a different way. But as the time is passing by and by, as we become more and more well-versed with the patients and we develop some sort of an expertise in the treatment, we unconsciously give importance to diagnosis. Because when once you diagnose a case, say for example as sinusitis, we follow what we call as Wernicke-Hazen's method. Wernicke-Hazen method is complete symptom prescribing rather than going to the generalities like Kentian method. So many of us in our day-to-day practice, we follow only Wernicke-Hazen method. Say for example, sinusitis patient, first manifestation is blocked nose. Which side it is blocked? That is the first question we ask. That is also Wernicke-Hazen method. Another is modality. When is the blocking aggravated? When do you feel it is more? If the patient says while lying down, that is a very, very important symptom. Or if the patient says open air, it's very, very important symptom. Or if the patient says fan aggravates me, is an important symptom. So the side of the nose affected, the modality, and what is the sensation of smell? Sensation of suffering. Is it totally blocked? Or the block is alternating from right to left and left to right? Or is the block is causing any discomfort in the nose? So that is the sensation. So sensation, location, modality. And what is the concomitant? Is it sometimes having any other problem or like constipation? Is the patient is constipated? What happened?
I just
It stopped suddenly, discontinued.
No. Please continue.
Okay. So this is the Wernicke-Hazen method, which generally I follow in my clinic. So the modalities always are important. Among all the sensation, location, modality, concomitant, the modality is most important. I generally depend my prescription, base my prescription on modalities. And if the patient says he is aggravated by lying down, that's a very, very characteristic symptom. And drugs like Nux mosquita helps very much when relieving the patient. Nasal block, aggravated lying down. Supposing the patient says, whichever side I lie down, the nose is blocked, Restax is the best remedy. So like that, some of these symptoms which characterize the patient, they help us in following or in treating the patient. And as you know, sinusitis is a very chronic problem, and one remedy may not help. When you give a remedy that gives relief to the patient, cure is something different from relief, as you know. To cure the patient, you may have to go to a deep acting drug, you may have to give a nosode. The most common nosode I use in sinusitis is Sorinum. Sorinum followed by tuberculinum are commonly used nosodes in the treatment of sinusitis at a particular stage of the disease. But whenever there is any acute exacerbation, drugs like say Calibyke, one of the excellent remedies, probably without Calibycromicum, no homeopath can cure a case of sinusitis. So Calibyke is one of the most important remedies, and other than that, any particular remedy can be indicated depending, as I have already told you, when the patient says that there is a block of nose while lying down, you think of Nux mosquito. So any particular characteristic symptom is there, we can follow that. We can take it as an important symptom and prescribe. So usually in my practice, I depend on the diagnosis first, which lead me to a particular group of remedies from which it is easy to select a remedy. And particularly when treating sinusitis, for that matter, for treating any disease, modalities are very important in my practice. I give maximum importance to modality. And diagnosis is important because you should be able to arrive at a particular group of remedies in selection of a particular remedy from that group. And any other topic you want me to dwell over, any particular subject? Rubrics are only modalities. We take the modalities. On the basis of modalities, we arrive at a remedy.
Okay. Sir, what is the, after giving the medicine, what is the follow-up and how do, if a doctor, for instance, we are senior practitioners, but there I see many newcomers have also joined the section. So how do you explain, suppose a patient comes and sits with an acute sinusitis?
Yeah, acute sinusitis. First, we should give relief to the patient.
Yes.
You never give any deep acting remedy or higher potencies in the very first visit itself. Commonly the patient explains about nasal block, heaviness of the head, or sometimes there may be block simultaneously with running of the nose, catarrh, congestion of the face. These are all acute symptoms. You may be having slight feverishness, headache, or heaviness of the head is the common symptom. So at that point of time, generally, a dose of Arsal 200 gives very good result.
Achha. How about,
sorry, Arsal generally we don't repeat. Arsal 200 one dose we give and wait for a day or two, the patient improves. And I am also, whenever the patient, especially we are talking about sinusitis, whenever the problem is very acute, I also give mother tincture Sabadilla. Sabadilla helps very well in sinusitis. Here the one point I would like to stress, as you said, many youngsters are here. When a patient comes to us, the primary duty is to give relief. This is a competitive world. We are always fighting against the established conventional system of medicine to retain ourselves. We are fighting in the sense not with any animosity. We are fighting for our sustenance and survival. So when a patient comes with acute symptoms, as I have described, a congestion of the face, running nose or blocked nose, feverishness, you have to give something to give immediate relief within 12 or 24 hours. Otherwise, the patient runs away. That is more important because sometimes my juniors ask me, sir, you have given a potentized remedy. Is it necessary to give Sabadilla also? It is necessary. Supposing you give a potentized medicine, you also enhance the action or you further give the more emphatic result you should obtain by giving mother tincture. It will not go against the action of the medicine because mother tincture acts on the nutritive plane. potentized remedy acts on the dynamic plane. There are two different planes, and giving mother tincture along with the potentized medicine is not a sin. Remember, keeping the patient with you for further treatment is more important. So what I follow, there is no hypocrisy. Openly, I'm telling. In most of the acute diseases, I give potentized medicine and also a mother tincture. And sometimes I also give something in reserve. Supposing the patient says, suddenly in the night, my nose is blocked more. I have difficulty in breathing. I give a few doses of calibicromicum in lower potency to be tried whenever there is any very, very acute suffering of the patient. If you don't give that, the fellow runs to the nearest medical store and swallows antibiotic or anti-allergic, something like that. To avoid that, you have to necessarily keep the patient with us. You have to do something, even if it is more than one remedy, which is an acute remedy in the lower potency, plus a mother tincture that is not away from the principles of homeopathy. Next.
Sir, we have a topic of cervical spondylitis also. Yes. So how do you deal with cervical spondylitis cases?
Right. Good question. Overall, in my practice, probably I must have treated a few thousands of spondylosis cases. The first thing I do is ask the patient to remove that collar. Whenever a patient enters to my chamber with a collar on, I feel it is challenging me. I don't know why I feel it. First I advise him to remove that collar. No, sir, if I remove the collar, there will be giddiness, I may fall, nothing happens. It is my responsibility. I'll give a medicine which will prevent your giddiness or vertigo, and you will not fall. It's my assurance. And I am openly discussing with you because you're all professionals. In cervical spondylosis, my line of treatment is more or less pathological. What is the pathology in cervical spondylosis? There will be degeneration of the spine, and there will be osteophytes on the cervical vertebrae. These osteophytes are something like sago seeds, small, just like our pills, our globules. They impinge on the nerve roots, what we call as radiculopathy. The pain travels along with the nerve. It may come into the neck, into the back, or into the shoulders. It is radiating pain. But many a time the patient suffers from vertigo. That is the really agonizing symptom. And if the patient wears that collar, at least that vertigo, he feels comfortable. So my drug of choice, invariably in all cases of cervical spondylosis, is Calcarea Float 6C in centesimal scale, repeated doses. Because the prescription is not on the basis of constitution, it is not on the basis of generalities, it is on the basis of pathology. So these small nodules are what we call as osteophytes, which are the main enemy, main villain here, which presses on the nerve root, causing impinging on the nerve root, causing pain. They should be dissolved. All of us are aware this excellent action of Calcarea flow in dissolving the tissue. Big tumors also will dissolve with Calcarea flow. So osteophytes are also dissolved. The result, the success rate is 90%. And simultaneously, I also give the patient mother tincture of Spigelia and Sanguinarea mixture. I call it as CS mixture, cerebrospinal, CS mixture means cerebrospinal, what we call spondylosis or cervical spondylosis. And both Sanguinarea and Spigelia mother tinctures, both have got specific action on right side of the neck and left side of the neck. They also help, plus Calcarea Float 6. And within next visit, within 2 or 3 weeks, the patient gives a report that he is better by 50 to 60%. So this is very, very essential for any practitioner. Don't allow a patient to run away because of lack of relief. that shows your inability in prescribing. First prescription, as all of us know, is very, very important. Second prescription, many practitioners find it difficult. Sir, first prescription we are giving, we are getting very good results. But second, how to go about? The second prescription is the problematic prescription. That is what when I was a young practitioner, I also experienced it. And even now, many practitioners, they keep me asking me whenever I meet them that second prescription is always, even Kent felt the need of the second prescription, the speciality of the second prescription. That is why in his talks on philosophy, he has allotted a special chapter for second prescription. That is the importance of it. So Dr. Gayatri is asking about the follow-up. Follow-up is that first give relief. Let the patient develop confidence in you because he has come to you from an allopath who has been continuously keeping him on painkillers or some what we call as physiotherapy. Now you have stopped everything. Since you have stopped your painkillers, the patient's acidity problem also must have come down, and you have given your CS mixture, combination of sanguinary and spigelia, plus calcarea floor 6 in the centesimal scale. Invariably, there will be relief. After a fortnight or 3 weeks, the patient informs you that he is feeling much better. So then next comes, what are the other residual symptoms? He got general relief, vertigo is better, and the pains are better. He is able to sleep. He is getting better sleep now. Now, next what you feel, you may sometimes repeat same calcarea floor because, as we have already discussed, we are tackling the pathological state. So a few doses may not be able to dissolve all the osteophytes. We keep on repeating it. Mother tincture also can be repeated. Then at a point of time, we may go to calcarea floor 30 also. Or if there is any specific information from the patient that the pain in the neck is gone, sir, but the pain is sometimes radiating, sometimes into the back, sometimes into the head, sometimes into the shoulders. So whenever that radiation of pain is very, very prominent, Calmia can be tried or Hypericum can be tried. Both are well established medicines in the treatment of cervical spondylosis. And Calmia has what we call as radiating pain, and Hypericum, as you all know, it is a nerve that is impinged, and the pain goes along with the nerve from the roots, and Hypericum is an excellent remedy. So second prescription in the treatment of, or follow-up in the treatment of cervical spondylosis may be one of these two remedies, Calmia or calcarea or Hypericum, or sometimes same calcarea floor in higher potency. So as the symptoms are receding, I mean to say getting better, the patient is getting better. If he comes up with some other manifestation, any specific type of, supposing the patient says left shoulder is very painful, I'm not able to move the hand also, and to scratch my back or to lift something, I'm feeling much better. Many a time we find Ferrum metallicum is more useful. So the follow-up depends on how the symptoms crop up. When you are given a remedy, the patient feels better, but not totally better. Some other symptoms are developing, some other manifestations are developing. Depending on that, you can give a remedy. And you can be freely giving the remedy. There is nothing like any restriction, unless this is a what we call as an inimical to the remedy given to you. You can be free in giving any remedy. You can also, supposing sometimes the patient says, sometimes I get pain in the right side, sometimes pain in the right side, left side. We can give sanguinary spigelia alternately, or give it in reserve. You can give placebo, give sanguinary spigelia in reserve. Ask the patient to take. When right side painful, you can give sanguinary. When left side is more painful, you can use spigelia. So what I am trying to impress upon you is that the importance of keeping the patient with you is much more. At any cost, the patient should not leave you because you are not able to give him relief. Keeping that in view, whatever the plan of action in the treatment, in the future plan of action in the treatment of a particular patient has to be kept in mind, and accordingly we should go ahead. Any other question?
I see in the chat, Sabadilla mother tincture, how much you give? It is asked in the chat.
10 drops with water 2-3 times a day.
Okay. Narayan Gunashekar has asked this question, Dr. Narayan. How do you arrive to the Simlinum?
Simillimum.
Yes.
Yes, of course. That's why in the beginning of my narration, I suggested the two schools of thought, Kantian school of thought, Bonninghausen school of thought. According to Bonninghausen school of thought, we arrive at a simillimum on the basis of complete symptom. Sensation, location, modality, and concomitant. That is complete symptom. That is the Bonninghausen school of thought. Coming to Kantian school of thought, it is mostly on the basis of generalities. So generalities, modalities are also generalities, not particular modalities, general modalities. Supposing better by cold, better by warmth, better by eating, better after sleep. These are all general modalities. Supposing if there is pain in the ear and that pain in the ear is aggravated in the evening, that is a particular modality. But any modality generally means modification of a symptom is modality. So any modification of the general condition of the patient is a general modality, and those general modalities help us in the selection of a simillimum. Simillimum literally means similar symptomatology and similar in susceptibility of the patient. That means the potency you select and the drug you select, both must be similar. That is only we call as simillimum. Honestly, many of us, we don't prescribe simillimum. Many of us can prescribe a similar remedy, but prescribing simillimum is something we cannot say. Suppose we generally prescribe 200. The patient's susceptibility level may be 30. Then it is not a simillimum, it is a similar remedy. With 200 also we get result, no doubt about it. So let us not be enamored about the simillimum, a similar remedy, and basing on the important general symptoms which characterize the patient, a characteristic symptom, I need not define you. Whenever you find a characteristic symptom, we can definitely give that. On the basis of that, the patient gets relief.
So another doctor, Dr. Radhasudha Vasam, is asking for adenoids and polyps in children. Remedies for adenoids and polyps in children.
Adenoids generally occur only in children. Adults generally don't find adenoids. And the treatment given for tonsils and adenoids more or less same, but adenoids bother a parent much more than the patient because the child happily opens the mouth and breathes. The child doesn't bother, but the parents are more bothered because the child snores. A child of 4 years snoring is something very agonizing for the parents. It is the parents who suffer more when a child gets adenoids. It's a sort of psychotic manifestation, as you know, unnecessary excessive growth of the adenoid tissue, which is obliterating the nasopharynx. So when the nasopharynx is obliterated, the air breathed in is not sufficient. So the child opens the mouth to breathe more air. So our drugs, the most famous remedies are Beretta group. Berettacar, Beretta iode, they are excellent in treatment. And by and large, even you can go for Calcarea cob. Calcarea cob also is very good remedy. And for the tonsils also, Beretta carb, all of us know. Even who is the other who challenges that even a quinsy, tonsillar abscess can be cured with Beretta carb 30. And I never failed in any treatment of with Beretta. That's what he says. So these drugs, they really help us. And agraphis nut, a mother tincture, really helps in absorbing in the tissue, adenoid, tonsillar tissue also. And it really helps in most of the patients. And biochemics also sometimes I prescribe in controlling these diseases, adenoids and tonsillitis or tonsillar hypertrophy. And some of the these children, when they have adenoids and tonsils, they also complain of pain in the ear. Which side of the tonsil is more inflamed? That side of the ear also they complain of pain. You can also think of MIF and MIR in such cases. Very good results you get, MIR and MIF, that side affinity, because every drug, apart from the symptomatology, drugs have got an affinity for the remedies. Affinity for the organs. So keeping that in view, when right side is affected, we MIF, left side is affected, MIR. In most of the conditions, especially inflammatory conditions, these two drugs work very well. And in the chronic stage, if the acute symptoms subside, the child is not suffering that much with pain, the child is not crying with pain, no fever, then you can go into the deep, like you can give a dose of calcium or a dose of medorinum, because the psychotic miasm is there, which is responsible for causing extra tissue or additional growths. That is in the long run to wind up the case or to give total complete relief to the patient. Next.
Yes, sir. Sir, one doctor is asking, what are the remedies for right shoulder pain, which they can bend?
Right shoulder.
Yeah.
Right shoulder.
Right shoulder, sir.
Yeah, sanguinea is a very popular remedy, and ferrum muraticum. Ferrum muraticum is also very popular remedy. And if these two remedies fail, and if the patient is still suffering, lycopodium, right side master remedy for any complaint, and even for pain in the right shoulder also, we can think of lycopodium. Sometimes there is tenderness, and there is also slight swelling. You can think of mercurius, Merxol, for right shoulder pain.
One more question, sir. Pansinusitis, fungal sinusitis.
Pansinusitis is inflammation of all the sinuses. If all the sinuses are inflamed, we call it as pansinusitis. And many of our patients, they come to us with pansinusitis, and we are capable of curing. Excellency. You just remember one dose of arsenicum album 200 followed by calibicromicum gives 50% of relief to all the sinusitis patients. These are all clinical tips which may be helping you, which we gather over a period of time, over years of our practice. First, start with Arsalp 200, one dose, follow it up with calibicromicum. There is no looking back. The patient will never leave you, even if you ask the patient to get out. They will not leave you. So much of confidence they develop in your treatment.
This question of fungal sinusitis is asked by Dr. Padmaja. She wants you to throw some light on fungal sinusitis, which is...
Padmaja knows it. She worked many years in my clinic. She knows it, how to tackle sinusitis. This is what I'm telling you. Pansinusitis or one-sided sinusitis, depending upon the side affected, that particular remedy we give. The pansinusitis, we also go to Sorinum, excellent remedy. Many times, the mother says, whenever a hair wash is done, whenever the hair is washed, the very next day my child develops cold, cough, and fever. Give one dose of Sorinum 10 before bath. The child will never develop sinusitis the next morning following hair wash. So you are developing resistance, stimulating the resistance or immunity of the child for cold, and is one of the best remedies. For pansinusitis also, Sorinum followed by tuberculinum will usually wind up the case 100% with success rate.
Yes, sir. Sir.
Okay, tell me.
Sir, please continue.
చెప్పండి నెక్స్ట్ క్వశ్చన్.
One Dr. Deepak Verma, he's asking, apart from vertigo, apart from cervical spondylitis, when there is a disturbance in vasovagal response, can you please suggest us few,
What symptoms are there?
like they come with
Huh?
they come with nausea, vomiting, all these things. So what
Your audio is not clear, Gayatri.
Oh, sir, it's a question put by Deepak Verma saying that if there is any vasovagal disturbance, the response of vasovagal, then what are the remedies?
We go by symptoms.
Totality
Even
of
if it is a pathological change inside, it is manifested. See, we give a pathological prescription when there is absence of symptoms, number one. Number two, you don't have enough time to take the entire case, work it out and prescribe. Then you go by, supposing it is diagnosed as typhoid, give baptisia. That sort of a arrangement we have in our clinic. So, if whatever may be the nerve that is involved, whatever may be the system that is involved, what are the manifestations? We go by manifestations, we go by symptoms. If there are no symptoms, there is no homeopathy.
yes.
Basically, it is symptom-based prescription, symptom-based therapeutic science, homeopathy.
So vertigo also can be managed on totality of symptoms. Deepak, if Deepak still doubt on his for the answer, Deepak, I would unmute you in the question ask. You can ask by yourself. And I have another question about lumbar spondylitis. Shyamala Bhupati wants me to throw some light on lumbar spondylitis. It is very common in females, sir. Backache.
Let him ask the question.
Yeah. Hello, sir. Please throw some light on lumbar spondylitis.
I have to speak on that now, or you will ask me question?
You speak on it, sir.
Okay, lumbar spondylosis is pain in the back, and it is something like cervical spondylosis. In the lumbar vertebrae also, osteophytes are developed. And the patient develops vague pain in the back, and the pain, sometimes it is diffuse pain. In lumbar spondylosis, usually the pain is diffuse, and it's a very difficult situation for the patient because the sitting posture is not comfortable. In any posture, he may not feel comfortable. Sometimes he gets up and walks here and comes and sits. Or in some cases, lumbar spondylosis mimics PIVD. PIVD is prolapses of the intervertebral disc. In some cases, lumbar spondylosis mimics PIVD. So if it mimics PIVD, the symptoms are something like sciatica. If it is on the right, the remedies are different. If it is on the left, the remedies are different. By and large, Rustox, calcareous floor, they really work wonderfully in back pain or lumbar spondylosis. And Rustox is nothing to be substituted. It's such a wonderful remedy. And in some cases, Rustox mother tincture also we prescribe. Along with the higher potency of 200 or 1 m, mother tincture also can be given. That also helps. And in a patient where during lying down or sleep or in the early hours of morning, the pain is aggravated, we can think of even Calicorn for lumbar spondylosis.
Yes, sir. Another question which is put to me privately is, left shoulder pain medicine, cervical spondylitis associated with numbness of one side of the face. That is maybe the left side of the face. She did not put it properly. It is a left shoulder pain, cervical spondylitis with this numbness of one side of the face. How do we manage such cases?
Same case, same thing with what are the drugs we are given. If it is on a particular side, if it is on the left side, spigelia. If there is inflammatory changes in the shoulder or in the neck, mercurius iodatus rubrum. And if it is on the right side, sanguinuria or lycopodium or mercurius, depending on the type of symptomatology, modalities. If it is night aggravation, definitely Mercosal. If it is evening aggravation, Lycopodium. So it all depends on manifestations. And in most of the cases of cervical spondylosis, the pain always radiates to shoulders or into the back. And that is why I said calcareoflor is useful in any stage of the disease. If it is specifically pointing to a particular remedy, we can give that remedy. Otherwise, calcareoflor.
Sir, shall I throw the session open for them to ask questions to you directly, sir?
Yeah, okay, no problem.
Yeah. Doctors, if you have any questions, please unmute yourself and pose your question. 1 minute. Dr. Deepak, you have a question here. Please unmute yourself. Ask the question.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, due to the sinusitis, and we can find cases of myopia due to the change in the structure of the eyeball and the sinuses pushing the eyes so that the cornea and the lens were the size.
To my knowledge, myopia is congenital.
Yes.
And sinusitis cannot cause myopia, to my knowledge.
Yes, sir.
If it causes, then again go to symptoms, find out the correct remedy and give it.
Any management regarding this, sir? Because the sinus, the swelling of the sinus pushes the eyeballs.
That's what I'm telling. If the sinus is a dominant symptom, take the symptoms the drugs which have already discussed for sinusitis. So select the remedy and give it, and you can also try mother tincture in a long run. The patient has to be treated for a long time. And if the myopia is there, maybe some other reason is there for that myopia, and that should be addressed separately.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Deepak, here the sinusitis causing myopia. I think as sir has said, first we need to cure sinusitis, which is the existing and maintaining cause of the patient, according to the APOSM. And then the automatically, when the pressure is released from the sinus,
You're right.
Effect is corrected. Hope I am correct, sir?
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right.
Yes, sir. And Dr. Kishore says, rare remedies effectively work in cervical spondylitis. Is it true? Dr. Kishore, you can unmute yourself and ask the question. You want to ask?
Yes. Hello, sir. What are the remedies which can rarely but which are effective in treating cervical spondylitis?
For example, you have any remedy in mind?
No, sir. Do you have in your experience? I'm asking.
I said specifically, why you go for when there are established remedies which you can prescribe with a lot of confidence. There is no need for any rare remedies. Rare remedies are not well proved. They are mostly empirically prescribed. So when there are established drugs which give you a definite relief, which you can confidently treat, so we don't bother about Lecananthus is one remedy sometimes prescribed. Lecananthus is a rare remedy, but it has got a wry neck or stiff neck. It may be a part of cervical spondylosis.
Any clinical proven remedies, sir? Clinically proven remedies.
Clinically proven remedies were discussed, no, cervical spondylosis. Sanguinuria, spigyria, calcareoflor, Calmia, all these drugs were discussed.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And doctors, do anyone have any questions? See, you have a most experienced person over here. I ask you, don't wait, just ask your questions, because the dais is open for you. You have such an experienced teacher who is throwing light on you, on your questions. As doctor, I have another question, sir. Sir? Oh. Sir? Hello?
Hear me. I'm hearing.
You are hearing, no? I have another question from Deva Sikhamani. He says, how do drainage and canalization in homeopathic therapeutics and operation? What is this?
What is that?
Is Deva Sikhamani over here?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, please
Are you hearing? Good evening, sir. Namaskaram, sir. Sir, regarding the canalization and drainage system of therapeutics in homeopathy, highlighted by the French doctors Vernamboli, sir. He says that the medicines that when we give in this way, they will be acting simultaneously on mechanical plane and visceral plane, humoral plane, and endocrines, and like that. Any ideas are on that?
I don't have a specific idea like that. We have drainage remedies. Many a time we give drainage remedies depending upon the requirement. Drugs like Heparsol, Silesia, Antimtot, these are all included in the drainage remedies. Silesia is one of the best remedies. And what do you mean by canalization? I have no idea. Is it something like erytheromatous sclerosis?
Yeah. No, it is like using the satellite follow complementary drugs and drugs inimical also like satellites. We have to use it as a canalization, not to have the aggravation, sir, and also a specialized type of approach for the cardiac patients, and it will be there like that, sir.
The vessel wall is pathologically affected in certain diseases, especially the tunica intima, the inner layer of the blood vessel is affected. That is what we call as erytheromatous sclerosis. So the lumen of the vessel wall is reduced, narrowed, and it becomes rough, causing damage to the platelets that are there in the blood that may cause a clot and all that. That's the usual pathology in coronary thrombosis we study. So similarly, in the peripheral blood vessels also, this erytheromatous changes may cause scanty blood supply, reduction of the blood supply. And in all these cases, the indicated remedy, how it actually works, it is still a mystery, but the patient gets relief. Even in what we call as gangrenous changes in the toes, due to narrowing of the blood vessels, blood supply is reduced, the toes become what we call necrosed.
Black
and in this stage, our drugs work. Erytheromatous changes are cleared. Say, for example, aramyode, one of the best remedies for erytheromatous sclerosis. Excellent remedy. Unfortunately, it is not a well-proven remedy, but it works miraculously in many diseases where there is erytheromatous changes. So, in other cardiac remedies we have, which are very useful in the treatment of coronary thrombosis or coronary occlusion or ischemia of the cardiac muscle. Cactus is a very well-known, and these are all the remedies, the action of which we may not be able to explain. But when we give these remedies, over a period of time, the patient feels better. And even when you take a cardiogram or QD echo, you find very good results. Very good pathology appears to be dissolved.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Anyway, any further proving also needed, sir, for such kind of mixed conditions or syndromes.
Right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, there is one question from another doctor. It is none other but Dr. Sudarshan Vashist. Before I ask his questions, I say there are few people are there who ask for others to learn, I think. Like, I believe in team. That is, team is, we should be all together.
Why not Vashist ask me?
Yeah, 1 second, sir. I think I'll put him.
Ask Vashist to talk to me.
His audio is not working. I suppose I'll just call him, sir. I'm really happy to tell that I truly believe in team. Team is nothing but together, everyone achievers more. When we are together, we achieve more. I believe in that. So with this, I ask Dr. Vashist, sir, will you please ask the question for yourself? I think audio is not working, sir. I'll just on his behalf.
Even your audio also is not very good.
Oh,
Gayatri. It's not very good, very audible.
okay,
There is
sir.
some problem with your audio also. Maybe it's with my phone, I don't know.
Oh,
My
okay.
voice is clear.
Your voice is very clear, sir. So here the question is, how well will mother tinctures help in acute respiratory distress?
Okay. Mother teachers do act, especially the most famous mother tincture in bronchial asthma is Blata orientalis. The whole world, homeopathic world knows about it. You know how Blata orientalis was introduced into Metromedica? Anyone with you have an idea? How Blata orientalis is introduced into homeopathic Metromedica? You ask, anybody can respond.
It was,
Accident. Yes, doctor. Who is speaking? Please.
yeah, this is Dr. Shanmukha Priya, one of sir's junior doctors.
Okay, Janmaki.
So it was accidentally discovered by one of the doctor when he was making a decoction. One of the cockroach fell into that decoction by mistake, and the other person drank it, who was having some asthmatic kind of troubles. That person reported back to the physician that somehow what was there in that tea that he got better. But when the physician himself examined, he found that there was accidentally cockroach in that. So that led to the further proving of Blata orientalis, and thereby the medicine was discovered.
Very good. That's correct.
Said,
The therapeutic properties of Blata orientalis is nothing but a cockroach, but accidentally discovered. It was in during British regime,
yes.
when Britishers were ruling India. One Englishman who is a chronic asthmatic, he has the habit of having a cup of tea in the morning. So his butler prepared a cup of tea and served him. And he found that day the asthma much better. He really was surprised. How is it I am so much better? And somehow he got a doubt, and he examined the kettle from which the tea was served. And to his surprise, he found a dead cockroach in the bottom of the kettle. Then next day, he asked his butler to fetch a cockroach and put it in the tea and give him. So he did it next day, and that gave him all the more improvement. So that is how the therapeutic efficacy of Blata orientalis came into light, as Dr. Shanmukha Priya correctly told.
Yes.
So that is one mother tincture which really helps. And Grindelia mother tincture also in asthmatic problems. And Ficus religiosa mother tincture in uterine hemorrhages, miraculously it works. Many a time we have observed that. So, and in sciatica pain, very acute pain and numbness of the leg with severe acute pain in the sciatic nerve, we always give, what is the remedy we generally give for that? That's the mother tincture. Very often we prescribe that along with it's a routine in my clinic. We give sciatica, a particular remedy that is indicated, plus I'm not recollecting the name of the Shanmukha Priya, you know that name?
One, sir?
Mother tincture for the sciatica we give.
Padma would tell.
Nephalium, sir.
Yes, Nephalium.
Yes, sir.
So
Yeah.
mother tinctures do act very well in acute diseases. In most of the acute diseases, we find mother tinctures helpful. And when you give a potentized remedy to augment the action of the potentized medicine, to give more quicker relief to the patient, you can also try mother tinctures along with the potentized medicines.
Yes. There is another question over here, sir. He wants your advice for treating cataract, especially in patients who cannot be operated for same due to multiple commo or bites. Any
Calcarea fluor 6 continuously can be given to dissolve the cataract, to dissolve the opacity of the cataract. And Cinerarium artima, a world famous remedy, Over ages, it has been prescribed Cineraria martima succus, CMS drops, along with calcareous floor as a palliative, no curative. Curative is only surgery.
And someone is asking, how about the eye drops which is being used regularly?
That is CMS is eye drops.
Yes.
Cineraria martima succus is eye drops only.
Yes.
Usually it is German company. Now Indian companies are also making CMS.
Yeah, Dr. Lakshmi, are you going to ask your question or shall I put the question? Oh, she wants me to put the question, sir. Cervical
Okay.
associated with osteoporosis, 76-year-old women.
Osteoporosis.
Yeah, cervical spondylitis associated with osteoporosis. The age of the patient is 76 years.
Yeah, it's a very good question, and it is really difficult to treat such patients also, because the pathology involved is something not degenerative. If there is a degeneration, you can regenerate the tissue. But here, it is a chronic deficiency of calcium absorption into the bone, which causes what we call as what she said? What is the clinical state she said about the spondylosis?
Cervical spondylitis with osteoporosis. Maybe
Osteoporosis. So the bone becomes weak due to deficiency of calcium deposition, and there are pores, several pores in the bone. That is osteoporosis. The bone becomes very weak, and you have to substitute with calcium, calcareous phos, calcareous floor regularly, with as far as possible, because the bone becomes fragile. The danger with osteoporosis is the bone becomes fragile and it is susceptible for fractures. And the mobility in the neck is much more than any part of the spine. As such, there is a possibility of fracture or stress fracture as well. So calcium deposit, calcium substitution, calcareous phos, calcareous floor, they do help a patient. If it is definitely related only to menopause, maybe lacusis or sanguinea or sepia, some of the remedies which are indicated in menopausal syndrome can also be tried along with substitution of calcareous phos 3x or 6x.
So another question by Deepak Verma. Deepak, you can ask your question. Hello, Dr. Deepak.
Sir, coming back to the nosode, sir, the nosode tuberculinum and bacillinum is almost having the similar mental and physical symptoms, sir. So what are the clinical indications and differentiation between the two nosodes?
No difference, both are same. Even in the prunings also, no difference was found. So only maybe bacillinum is slightly more prone to skin problems compared to tuberculinum. If the patient has got a chronic, what we call as a psoriasis or chronic dermatitis, in such cases, you may sometimes prefer bacillinum to tuberculinum. Otherwise, 99% both are similar, no difference in action, applied action as well as clinical action. There is no difference.
Okay, thank you, sir.
To add a point, Deepak, bacillinum is a chilly remedy, when you see, and tuberculinum is a hot. Bacillinum is chilly, tuberculinum is hot.
Bacillinum is?
Chilly, sir. Chilly.
No. Both are chilly.
Oh, okay.
Tuberculinum is highly susceptible to cold, very sensitive to cold. Both are chilly remedies.
Thermals I am talking, sir.
Both are chilly. Both are chilly.
Okay. Sir, there's another question for glaucoma. Remedies for glaucoma.
Glaucoma. Glaucoma, I'm afraid we cannot take any chances, because unless if you delay treatment of glaucoma, it always affects the optic nerve and the patient becomes blind. So I advise my young friends not to dabble with such diseases which may lead to disastrous results. If the allopath says there is no remedy, then you can try. Safely, comfortably, you can try. Otherwise, I don't think we should tackle with glaucoma, because the impending danger of glaucoma is blindness.
So there are many other questions in general. Everyone are asking, sir. Like they are asking about leukoderma, amenorrhea, pyuria, all this. But doctors, I promise, every day, in a week we'll be having 2-3 sessions where we'll be concentrating on the diseases, on the symptoms, the totality of symptoms with all my teachers. As I have said, there is one doctor asking me, Madam, could you please give the recording? Yeah, wonderful, doctor. I'm very happy that you want recording of my my teachers who I have been following. I'm doing these sessions only for you, for people like you to also listen to my teachers, which we have heard. I'm definitely put this.
Gayatri, my suggestion,
Yes.
my suggestion to all my young friends is,
Yes,
treat the patient with confidence.
yes,
Don't treat the patient with hesitation. This is a piece of advice. Your confidence in treating the patient is reflected in your facial expressions, which the patient can very well read. Patients are very intelligent. If you are not confident, if you are hesitant, if you yourself is confused whether you are going to cure the patient or not, the patient will never improve. Many a time you find patients coming to our clinic and saying, Doctor, after spending some 5 or 10 minutes with you, I feel half relieved. What does it mean? You are connecting with the patient's mind. That connectivity for a practitioner is very, very important. So develop confidence, have faith in your system of medicine, have faith in your prescription, and give prescription, it will definitely 100% it works. See, this is my piece of advice to all our young friends. And that confidence, why I say, when you are prescribing a medicine with confidence, you express, you manifest that confidence in your face. That is read by the patient, that cures 50%.
and doctors, all the discussion would be put on the YouTube. You please go to this, because these are the treasures which I wanted you to all listen. Whenever I call my teachers, they all respond. Recently, I spoke to Shiv Shankar sir regarding COVID. We had a long discussion about speaking about the phosphorus, arsenic, many things which would aid in helping treating COVID. The sessions by heart, as I have told you, it is all for you. I am conducting. I will be putting them on YouTube. Okay. If anyone has any questions, please unmute yourself. Wow, sir. Sir, we have 96 participants and everyone are thanking in chat.
Very good. Thank you.
Sir. Yeah.
It's over, Gayatri. The session is over.
1 second, sir. Sir, any questions from anyone, doctors? Do you have any questions, or shall we end the session?
Madam, good evening, madam. Sir, good evening, sir.
Great.
Yeah, doctor, please introduce yourself.
Sir, good evening, sir. Sir, actually,
You are not visible. I'm not able to see you.
Doctor, please be visible. Make your video and audio both. I think you have stopped it.
Sir, good evening, sir. Madam, good evening.
Good evening. Yes.
Actually, in our clinic, we will see normal case like adenoids and tonsillitis, sometimes polyps. So actually, we use simulum. Most of the patient will get relief. If some patient, case is the chronic, Tuja will overcome the problem, sir. Anti-miasmatic treatment.
Usually, syphilitic nosode does not cause tissue proliferation. It is the psychotic nosode that causes tissue proliferation. You have mentioned about adenoids, tonsillitis, polyps. They are all psychotic manifestations. So how syphilis helps you, I don't know. Medorinum maybe
Tu-
more. Chuja definitely helps. Chuja definitely helps.
Yeah.
Calcareum definitely helps. Medorinum definitely helps. But I'm afraid
Okay.
Ciperidone, unless it is specifically indicated, I don't think Ciperidone is indicated in this particular clinical manifestations.
Yes, sir. So Tuja can give, and Medorinum sometimes if case is difficult.
Yeah, Chuja
if
is indicated. For growth, Chuja is definitely indicated.
yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Prajna, I think if I'm correct, the spelling, it is Dr. Prajna, I think. She wants the YouTube channel. You can hit, I'll just share my phone number with you, doctor. Can you please, I'll just put the phone number in the chat and I'll be sharing the YouTube link to you. Please get connected to me. My phone number is, I have just put my phone number, Dr. Prajna, 9849637145. You can just get connected to me. Connected to me, Prajna. Yeah.
Hello, ma'am.
You wanted?
Ma'am, could you please repeat your number, please?
Yeah, I have put in the chat 98496 37145.
Okay, ma'am. I'll just text you by WhatsApp.
Yeah. You do that.
Yes, ma'am.
Definitely, you will be finding it on YouTube. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Yeah, sure. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Sir, it was really a wonderful session. I would like everyone to unmute yourself and say and wow of thanks to Dr. Shivsankar sir, who has
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gayatri madam, and
Thank you,
Dr.
ma'am.
Shivsankar
Thank you,
sir.
Gayatri, ma'am.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for
Thank
wonderful.
you so much. Thank you, ma'am.
Wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
4 also.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
thank you.
For today, you all.
Okay. Thank you, Gayatri. Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you. నమస్కారాలు ఎప్పుడు మాకుండా మమ్మల్ని
తప్పకుండా. Thank you.
ఉంటాను సార్.
Okay, thank you. Bye.